Yes, we come again to alert our people about the things coming at them, the things some of which they think they know, but which they really do not know. The campaigns are heating up. There's the PDP, there's the APC, there's the Labour Party. Let's limit ourselves to those three for the purpose of the important thing we need to know now, whether it is election that will solve the problems that are coming at us, the invasion that is now, becoming more rampant, the Fulani invasion. We recall that we had talked about plans A, B, and C of the invading Fulani led by our own president and commander-in-chief, a Fulani man. The conquest that the Fulani is driving at in order to reestablish ownership and control over the territorial space the world calls Nigeria. In the face of the defeat of the Constitution 1999, that was the title deed, that is still the title deed, by which they exercise control over the entire sovereign space. Now, we've arrived at the juncture where Ninas need to tell everybody, especially those who are building their hope around one or the other of these three campaigns. Why does Ninas say that we must shut down the journey to the election? Why does Ninas say nothing will improve except this constitution goes down? Why does Ninas say it is this constitution that empowers the murderous invaders against the indigenous peoples? It is in that light that we want to bring out these three. We want to zoom in on each of these three campaigns to explain to us why none of them is going to take us to anything, any safe destination. We're not talking about even progress, because as long as that constitution is in place, there's no progress that can be made. We can only deteriorate. If we look back at 1999, we will see that we've been deteriorating progressively. And now we're not even talking about the stagnation and that deterioration. We're talking about the danger that is coming towards us in a situation where the Fulani now want to take the entire space for themselves as their new homeland, eliminating and exterminating the indigenous peoples of Nigeria. And so we just want to make it clear that Ninas stands where it stood all the while about the need to shut down the voyage to that election, because no matter who wins the election, that constitution will survive. The calamities we're talking about can only increase, and none of the candidates can do anything about those things for the reasons we're going to explain to you in course of this. So it will be in three parts. We'll take on we'll start with the PDP and their candidate Atiku. Then we go to APC, their candidate Tinubu, and then Labour Party and their candidate PDP.
Elon Musk is talking about constricting the journey from London to New York to 31 minutes. But unfortunately, the topical issue in Nigeria is restructuring. Restructuring my foot. To hell with restructuring. Let's improve on the quality of governance. Let's work for the people. Let's invest in education. Let's create jobs. All this madness will evaporate.
Now to the APC and their candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For the same consideration, we proceed to this election. Tinubu wins. What are we to expect concerning the source of the problem that has brought Nigeria to this sorry state? whether it's the insecurity or the corruption or the decayed infrastructure or the hopelessness or the poverty that has brought Nigeria to the the global capital for poverty status. What are we to expect from Tinubu or APC winning the election that will solve these problems? Again, Ninas is saying nothing will change. APC will not rework this unitary constitution. As for the candidate, Tinubu, who emerged as governor of Lagos from the Nadeko process, and then from that time, of course, he got involved with Pronaco when he thought, it was just a building of political family. But as we finished from Pronaco in 2006, it became clear to him it wasn't going to be so, especially when Yar'Adua emerged president, by which time we had reached the the conclusion of the Pronaco process, producing draft constitution that could have taken Nigeria back to being a federal union one more time. A process that had the ethnic nationalities from across the length and breadth of Nigeria, including Fulani at the time, attending to address these two questions of whether we want to carry on in this union as one political union or otherwise, and whether and what the terms of that union would be. That was what the Pronaco did. So from Nadeko to Pronaco, Tinubu was always there in the background. His chief of staff then was Fashola, your current Minister of Works, and his Attorney General of the time, the one that is Vice President now, Yemi Osinbajo. And so none of them is a stranger to what we're discussing, because it's that same thing we set out to resolve at the time, that Ninas is at the stage of consensus have been built, and we are now to enforce that consensus, that we must go back to being, we must restore the sovereignties that are confiscated by that constitution to the owners of the sovereignty. What they do with the sovereignty will then be their own decision, and that is what self-determination is all about. If Yoruba want to be in union with Fulani and Igbo, then it will be their decision, not the one that is imposed by the instrumentality of that 1999 constitution that lied that we, the people, submitted our sovereignty. That's the biggest quarrel, and for which reason Ninas is saying we can't proceed, because it's a disputed union now. It's a disputed construction site. The Nigeria you are building on that foundation is like a house being erected on a disputed land. Those who are, all the agitations, whether it's for Odua Republic or Biafra Republic or resource control in Niger Delta or whatever the Middle Belt is saying they don't want now, all of them are flowing from the same constitutional grievances imposed by the constitution that they didn't make, appropriating their sovereignties. And so this party, APC, on account of our extensive engagements with all stakeholders across board, APC had put restructuring in their manifesto at the time they were trying to dislodge Jonathan. Then when they got there, this is 7 years going to 8 years, they even set up a committee led by Rufai to work out the details of how it will be done. All of those things came down to simple deceit. They did not touch that subject matter. Buhari began to abuse everybody. He said that those who are talking about restructuring don't know what they're talking about, and all such nonsense. Eventually, APC, the APC that was more or less Tinubu's brainchild, had been in power for close to 8 years, and that subject matter was thrown overboard. That constitution that everybody is rejecting, everybody has repudiated, is still in place. And so, what will change if we proceed to election and APC wins that election? Especially when Tinubu, in searching for a running mate, we don't want to get involved in the menial talk about Muslim ticket. The individual that Tinubu had selected as his running mate, Shetima, what's the name again? The running mate. We know his complicity, his complicity in the terror we are witnessing today, the Chibok girls saga, and all of what is in the public domain. But more importantly, on the subject of what will happen with constitutional arrangement, the fellow just been nominated as a running mate on the APC ticket has already come to the public place to insult those who are talking about constitutional reconstruction. He said they don't know what it is. He said they are talking nonsense. That is a Shetima. And so we were hoping that Tinubu will rebuke or disown that position in 24 hours. 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks. Therefore, since it's a joint ticket, because whoever is nominated as vice president could become president even from the first day. If after the election something happens that the president cannot proceed, the man who won the election with him will become president. If after 1 week of being president something goes wrong, the man who is vice president will become president. So the Shetima that is saying that those who are talking about restructuring are out of their minds. He actually abused everybody. And Tinubu is standing with that decision. Combined with what he had done since after Nadeko on this subject matter, I can tell you, Ninas can tell you authoritatively that if APC wins this election, if all of us proceed without interrogation to another round of national election in 2023 on the basis of the 1999 constitution, if APC perchance happens to win, that constitution stays, and all of what you lament about will only increase. Like we tried to warn in 2015 that election was not the way to go to solve this problem. Nobody listened. We went to election. Buhari happened. We have seen where it has landed us. And so again, we are shouting from the rooftops to say, if we proceed to this election, the people who are invading us for conquest, because of the defeat of that constitution that empowers them against us, are going to have a new lease of life for a constitution that had been defeated already by our actions across the last 22 years. And so, if APC wins in that election, God forbid we should get to that threshold, that constitution will remain intact, and nobody is going to be allowed to raise the issue under their watch. Let nobody, that means your sovereignty that is hijacked and confiscated by that constitution will remain where it is. You are going to be in Nigeria, in the Nigeria defined by that constitution. You are going to remain in information of 36 states. You are going to remain in information of 7 and local government areas. You are going to remain with 68 items of exclusive list that shackle you and seize your assets and make it impossible for you to do anything for yourself. You are going to remain in this regime of corruption that is created and protected by that constitution. We've been through it so many times, explaining to our people what contents of that constitution create all these conditions we talk about, whether it is the insecurity we see, or the corruption we see, or the impunity we see, or the decayed infrastructure we see. And so we just want to let us know that if we proceed to this election, Ninas is telling us that if we proceed to the election of 2023, it will be our own choice to preserve that constitution that creates a master-servant union, a union of death, a union of backwardness, and a union of poverty for one side and affluence for the other. I would think that the choice to make is whether we want to remain in our bondage or want to come out of it. If we want to come out of it, we must stop that journey to that election, because all the political parties subscribe to that constitution. Whether it's APC or PDP or Labour Party, they will swear to and govern by that constitution. So what are we pursuing when we can shut down the journey to the election and recover our sovereignty and decide in self-determination what we want, whether we want to be in union, remain in union with those who have embraced a civilization that required them to kill others as infidels, and who say to us that we are not all born equal. They say they are born to rule the rest, that all men are not born equal. These are the kind of things we'll be bringing upon ourselves if we proceed to this election under that constitution. Ninas is saying the way to salvation is to shut down the journey to that election. Except we want to perish, the time to listen is now. Thank you.